Charles, we've been talking about the miracle of American capitalism. One of the problems, one of the criticisms that people point out is that it creates a wealth disparity. But you're working on solving that one investor at a time. And I love this book, Wall Street Profits for Main Street Investors. In it, you're teaching people how to level the playing field, and I love the principles you've laid out. I was trained by Sir John Templeton, and I was once in the investment newsletter business myself, so I believe in your bottom-up approach. You know, we did long-term, value, and bottom-up. Great principles. Tell us about your principles in this book.
Very simple. Before I tell you that, I just want to share with you, I wrote that book and I wanted to keep it very short. I wanted to keep it to about 100 pages so the average person could read it in one sitting. And the reason is there's so many business books and so many books on how to or to learn about things is around 3 to 5 pages of good information surrounded by 200 to 300 pages of fluff. So I said people don't have time for that and they just want to get right to the bottom line. So I took my approach, which is very simple, which is time-tested and proven by the greatest investors you mentioned, Sir John, and Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch and Seth Klarman and all of the greats. It's very simple. You buy a stock which represents a piece of a business. It's not a wiggle or jiggle on a chart. A stock is a piece of a business. And the way you invest in a business is the way you should buy a stock. You want to look at a company or a business in an industry that has a tailwind that's pushing it forward. For example, you could be the greatest CEO, greatest investment in a newspaper. It's not going to do well. You could put Bill Gates in charge of selling videotapes. It's not a good business. But when you find an industry which is pushing forward by a tailwind, such as healthcare, technology, biotech, any of those, then you want to find a company run by an outstanding CEO, because at the end of the day, it's the CEO that makes the decisions and runs the company. And lastly, you want to buy it at an attractive price. And then once you do, just as Charlie Munger says, investing is simple. You buy great companies at attractive prices and then sit on your ass and let the company make the money for you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, it's great. The principles I picked up: don't gamble, don't get sucked in, look for viable businesses. Basically, you're telling people that there is a market of stocks, not just a stock market. And like Templeton, you don't tell people to time the market. You don't try and time the market as a whole, but you're looking for opportunities. Now, you mentioned in here 4 great filters from Warren Buffett. Can you share what those are?
Yeah, Warren Buffett has that's the thing I've learned over the past 4 decades or so is the approaches that work best are the ones that are simple. So my approach is very similar to Buffett's, and I learned from him, which is basically you have a checklist. So you don't need to invest in 6,000 or 10,000 companies. You just find a handful. And Buffett's filter is very simple. He says, do I understand the business? Which means, and he's a brilliant man, do I understand what the economics of the business are? Where this business is going to be 3 to 5 or 10 years out? And once it passes that filter, he then says, is it run by a manager who has integrity and who has produced outstanding returns? And then the next thing he basically says, does the company have a competitive advantage? Do they have an advantage over everyone else that makes it pretty hard to take market share away from them? And if it passes those 3 filters, can I buy at an attractive price? And that's it. So that's why I've learned that the great investors are able to say yes or no to any company or any stock in a matter of seconds just by asking 3 to 4 questions.
Well, it's brilliant. It is simple, though. You even simplified it further. You've got alpha rules. Tell us what the alpha rules are.
Yeah, the alpha rules are just as simple. In fact, I just cut them down to make them a bit easier. Is number one, I always want to find a company in an industry with a tailwind pushing it forward, run by an outstanding manager, CEO, and I want to buy it at an attractive price.